We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
To taste with you well, if you've gone sour, you want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are guilt creeping, and you're going buying flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. So shut your mouth.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the professionals on NUFC Matters. Good afternoon, Stu. Good afternoon, Mitch.
Good afternoon, sorry.
Good to see you. And we do have a special guest, Mitch, coming up in about half an hour. Can you tell us who it is?
Do indeed. It's a guy called Craig Buglas, and he's a football kit designer. He's done designs for Nike and Puma in the past. You may have all worn kits he's designed, in particular World Cup kits for big world teams. But he was also acting as consultant with Adidas on the new kits. And he's now here in Dubai, and he's a Dubai mag. So I thought, why not drag him on, and he can have some of his patter. I gather he's been out for a few pints this afternoon, so it could be interesting patter later. But
so he fit right in on this show. Exactly.
Top bloke though, really good guy. Very interesting backstory, and obviously we can pick his brains a little bit about Adidas.
Good stuff. And Paul Charlton's on the drink as well. He says, afternoon from the pub. A very rare day out on the drink for me. Toon Army. Aye, Paul.
Enjoy, Paul.
Enjoy, mate. It was good to see you at the kit launch yesterday. He was ahead of me in the queue with about 250 other people, but it was good to see him. Got his top, and yeah, good day yesterday. Stu, I am going to come to you first because Mitch is going to take the lead with our guest in about half an hour. And I know you and I were backwards and forwards with messages, and it's interesting because tomorrow's program with Ben Jacobs, I talk about his insistence on Newcastle only having 50 or 60 million pound to spend in this transfer window. I mentioned last night on the Amigos that I'd had a sit down with Liam, and of course Liam then came on the show and we talked about it with Liam. He said that in his mind he doesn't think Ben is doing that for clicks. You know, he can see where he gets that like figure from, but you know, you have consistently said on this platform that you feel that we will spend in the region of 200 million in this window. So I guess my mindset is, you know, I'll wait and see. But why are you so confident? You wanted to have a say about this. Give us your views on why you think it's going to be, as Brucey would say, higher.
Well, I'll tell you something. This show is like being sitting in the bar with your mates. So you have a bit crack on. Sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree. And then someone comes in who knows your ex-wife and just starts slagging it off with no substance whatsoever. So the answer to the question will be given at the end of August, won't it? So I'll tell you what. We're on a 5-year project. That's what we were told when the takeover happened. This is the 3rd year. This is the year that we should be challenging for the Champions League. Are we going to challenge for the Champions League on a 50, 60 million pound budget? I don't think so. So it's already been budgeted for, and all this like Sky, which they did take down and say Newcastle were going to happen to sell before they buy to fit in the financial fair play. Does anyone seriously think the people in charge of our club would allow that to happen? I don't. That's why they didn't spend in January. I think they'll spend as much as they can, and they wouldn't give the Premier League any excuse at all to allow Newcastle or for them to charge Newcastle for going over the limits. Now, as I've been working, I've just come in. You've just told me now that we've bid money for James Trafford. So what happens if Burnley say yes? Where are we getting the money from that from? If we're already over. So let's do some maths. It's quite simple. We've got the 5-year plan, and we all know that we're going to be buying a goalkeeper. So say it's 15, say it's 20 million, it may even be 30 million or more. So we'll call it 20. Let's keep it simple. We all know we need a right winger, and a midfielder, and a forward, and a centre half. Now, if we've already spent 30 million on Hall and 20 million on Trafford, we're going to get all of those with 10 million. I don't know how we're going to do that. I really can't see it. So what I'll do, bear in mind I sell property in Bahrain and Ben Jacobs, who I do have a lot of time for, may not sound it when I say this. I think he's wrong and I'm right. And I'll say 200 million, he can say he's 50 million. And whoever's furthest away from that figure at the end of the window, the loser donates £1,000 to the Newcastle United Food Bank. How about that? So you can ask Ben if he wants to take that bet up, and because obviously he has his sources and he knows exactly where he is. This is just me doing my calculations, and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. And as long as it's a great charity that benefits, which the food bank is, I will bet 1,000 British pounds sterling, not pounds of sand or anything like that, cash into the food bank.
As an ambassador for Dementia Matters, can I ask you to donate 50% to the food bank and 50% to Dementia Matters?
You can ask what you want, Steve. I won't be donating. It'll be Ben.
Okay, well, we'll put that to put in the unfortunate circumstances that could prevail. Would you do it? Just so I've got that on
Yeah,
record.
of course.
Yeah, that's great. All right, okay, over to Ben, as Keith Moore says. Let's see what Ben says. I will have to clip this. Where are we? 7:40. So we're about 6:50 into the show. I'll do that. I'll stick that out on social media and let's see what Ben says. I'll do that a little bit later on. But yeah, good answer. We are talking about goalkeepers. Mitch, I'll come to you now on this. And James Trafford, linked, of course, with Newcastle quite heavily over the course of the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And on Barry Hogan's list, which is now at 116 players. Newcastle now have put in a bid for Trafford. £15 million is the figure that Sky are running with. Give or take a couple of 100,000 here or there, but 15 million is what they're proposing that Newcastle may well put in. What's your thoughts on Trafford? 28 games for Burnley, came in from Man City, of course, and Carl, it was originally a Carlisle, I believe. So I think they got a knock on fee when Man City sold them to Burnley, but part of a relegation squad, but also highly rated as a future England keeper.
Yeah, and also you've got to look at we talked about this the other night, the balance of bringing somebody in who has enough experience that you could give him the confidence to put him in a Premier League team, but has the ability to improve and hopefully challenge Pope as he improves. But also someone who's happy to fit into that framework. It's but you're looking for a unicorn, and Trafford kind of fits most of those, ticks most of those boxes. We've got Karius going. Good chance we've got Dubravka going. We need another keeper in at least. Now, like we've talked about as a possibility, the radical solution, clear the lot out, including Pope. And Trafford might be part of that solution. But certainly as somebody who could slot in alongside Pope into the goalkeeping room, who has the ability to improve. People were talking very positively about him in the first half of the season. And okay, he got dropped in the end, but he's also still, what's he, 21? It's not like the prime of the life for goalkeepers. And it's somebody that could be improved and could improve the goalkeeping room. I think if we're confident that Pope is back properly from his injury, then he's obviously 100% next season the number one. The stats show how poor we were once he came out of that team in terms of defensively and clean sheets. So why shouldn't we trust that? You know, but yeah, I think it's also not a massive outlay. You're talking about people wanting to spend 40 million on a keeper. We're not spending half of that. And he's got Premier League experience and. I don't know what people want. I think we just have to trust them to do the job and trust them to bring the people in that they want to improve the squad with and bring everything together, you know? I think there were plenty of people doubted Gordon's signing. Would you doubt it now, a year on? Of course not. Or a year and a bit on? Of course you don't. So I keep a very open mind to it, and I just want. I see where if we're able to make this kind of signing, we're obviously not worried about FFP and not worried about balancing books. And I do believe there's a very firm hand on the tiller when it comes to money from the Saudi side of things and PIF. And so if they're happy to put bids in like that to Burnley, why the hell not?
What's your thoughts then on Trafford? I mean, you did mention him, Stu. You've talked about him, you know, as a potential. He has got potential. I mean, he's a young lad. Yeah, he was involved in a relegation battle and ultimately a relegated side last season. But, you know, he could be one for the future. Maybe, you know, maybe the Marmadash Valley thing isn't going to come off, and Newcastle are acting now on this particular keeper and may well go in with Pope unless something else comes up in due course.
Well, yeah, we did say that he fits the model, doesn't he? The way they are, getting them younger at a lower price and develop them rather than going and buying a fully fledged superstar already. The question mark remains to me and to people I've spoken with is it's Pope's fitness. Now, if Pope is fully fit, 100% fit, and there's little chance of reoccurrence, then Trafford makes sense because we need at least one goalkeeper. Possibly two, because we know Karius has gone. It's likely that Dubravka will leave. He'll spit his dummy out again like he did when Pope first replaced him, and I'm not going to be sitting on this bench, so he went to Man United and sat on their bench. So it's clear that he's going to leave. So then that would leave us with Pope, Trafford, and Gillespie. I said Robbie Elliott the other night, but I didn't mean Gillespie. So that's where we're at. For me, they're testing the water, and that would then indicate that first of all they've got money to spend. Second of all, that they're admitting that they do need a goalkeeper. And with Trafford, he had a great under-21 tournament. He only conceded one goal. I think that was a penalty in the last minute or something. So he is a capable keeper. He will come on. He will learn. He will learn from Nick Pope if Nick Pope is going to be our lead goalkeeper. But what's to say we don't sell Pope and buy another keeper as well as Trafford? You know, so they do buy to think in the future. For example, you sell Pope for 10, 12 million. That gives you a lot of money to go and buy Mama. So there's a lot of things up in the air, but it's quite clear that one of the areas that we do need to improve on is a goalkeeper. And the fact that they went early before the financial year is finished, as I said just before, shows that they do have some money to spend, and it shows that that they value Trafford. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting in there early because they don't want to wait for where people have more money to spend come July the 1st. So yeah, if they get him, it doesn't mean he'll become number 2 to Pope, but he'll be number 2 to somebody.
Yep, I would agree. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Newcastle is trying to get business done early. Lloyd Kelly, of course, is another one who, you know, Newcastle were chasing. We'll see what happens with that. Lots of rumours now that West Ham could be interested in Kelly. So are Newcastle going to get snubbed again? We'll wait and see. It's a busy old summer Newcastle are going to have one way or another. Okay, I'm going to bring in our guest, and it is Craig. How are you, Craig?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Good to see you. Thanks very much for coming on. I did say Mitch was going to take control of the show and have a chat with you, mate. So thanks for coming on. Over to you, Mitch.
All right, Craig, how are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, pal. How are you?
Aye, good, man. I've just given you a little bit of a build-up, but everybody at NFC Matters needs to get to know you. So tell us a bit about your background, how you got into kit design, and a bit about yourself.
Well, long story short, I got into it because it was a bit of a Billy Elliot situation, really. And that I studied photography and graphic design and all that sort of stuff from South Tyneside College, to be honest. And when I was there was a fashion course, and all the girls were on the fashion course. So I'm thinking, okay, I think I'm going to jump onto that course. And I went back to my dad and I says, oh, look, I think I'm going to do fashion design. Like, he was like, no son of mine's going to do fashion design like you, Puff. And it sounds absolutely ridiculous saying that in this day and age, but that literally was the situation. So I was like, fuck you, I'm going into doing fashion design. So literally the next day, went in, told my lecturer, right, I'm doing fashion design, and that was it. And that's how I got into it. And then, studied fashion design and ended up going to the Royal College of Art, which, for those that know anything about fashion design, it's like, without blowing my own trumpet, it's one of those really prestigious colleges where there's about 10 or 12 people allowed in each year. And thankfully, I was one of those students that was allowed in. So, yeah, it was great. So I did that, and I was like, fuck you, Dad.
Love it. And so you ended up doing kit design for Nike and Puma, amongst others. And I was saying to everybody before the show on Twitter, nearly everybody's probably worn a kit you've designed at some stage. I'm quite sure of that. Give us some of the big ones that you've done.
Oh, I mean, probably the biggest one I've done is probably the 2002 World Cup winning kit for Brazil. That was probably the highlight of my career. To see someone lift the World Cup in something that you've actually designed is like, yeah, well, I mean,
Pinnacle, mate. Pinnacle.
It's never going to get any better than that. And working for someone like Nike and stuff, at that time, Nike weren't that big in the world of football. And when I went to them, it sounds weird, but when I went to Nike, they were probably like 5th or 6th in the football world. So it was like almost like a startup business. So when I went to them, it was like, yeah, it was weird. It was weird. You've got this big corporate animal, but they were nowhere in football. So we spent years trying to get the right players in. And I always remember we went to Barcelona, and there's the marketing director at the time was a guy called Phil McAveety, and he was talking about all these players like Kaká and Ronaldo and all these players, and like, who's he talking about? And all of a sudden, we just rewrote the history books, and that's what, to be fair, Nike were amazing at. And they had the Brazil team, but they knew Man United was really key to it. So, it was one of those things where you were just on, like you were kind of climbing the crest of a wave, if you like. And I was just in the right place at the right time. And did Brazil, did Barcelona, Juventus, Inter Milan, the first ever Man United Nike kit that Ronaldo wore, and Beckham and all those sorts of players, which when I look back, like, it's mental because you're full of euphoria of what had happened. But at that time, I was like, it's just a job. It was just literally a job. And I even thought about it. But it's only now that I'm in my 50s that I reflect and I'm like, holy shit, that was pretty monumental what I did. So yeah, it's that's kind of all the different teams I've kind of designed for. And unfortunately, I did a Sunderland kit, which still pains me to this time.
Could you not have something like wankers written into the reeve of the shirt or something like that?
You know the daft thing is, right? This is a God's honest truth, right? So all the way through that design process, right? Because at the time they were sponsored by Reg Vardy, right? So we took all the logos off the Reg Vardy, and I put a steaming turd on the front of the jerseys when we were ever designing them locally. So whenever it was like internally, there was the Sunderland kit that I designed, but there was instead of Reg Vardy, there was a steaming turd on the front of it, and it was just like a practical joke between all. But then the best thing, and I can't even remember who was the chairman at the time, but I did the home kit, the away kit, the third kit, and I did the training kits. And the training kits, I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to do black and white, put a little bit of red in there. And the chairman came back and said, yeah, we love the home kit, we love the away kit. We're a little bit worried about the away, like the training kit. It's a little bit black and white. I'm like, fucking yes, get in there.
Brilliant.
Always trying to get a bit of Newcastle in everything, son.
So let's fast forward to now. And the new kits that Adidas have produced for us.
Yeah.
You had a degree of consultancy in that. How did that come about, and what did you actually do?
So it's long story short. There's and I can't drop too many names because I'm under an NDA.
Okay.
But basically, there's a couple of characters that we know from Adidas, and we've known them for years, going back even to my Puma days. And we've been really good pals, good work colleagues and all the rest of it. And then obviously everybody knows I'm a die-hard Newcastle fan. So anyway, cut long story short, we're in Manchester, and Adidas happened to be in Manchester at the same time. I'm like, well, why don't we hook up and we'll have a bit of a chat. So at this point, this is way before the TV program that went out on Netflix, way before they'd even met with Stavely and all those guys. So there was a rumor going on that Adidas were in for the kit, and I do know that Nike was going for it really hardcore as well, because a lot of my friends still work at Nike as well, obviously, and I know they were pitching really hard for it. And anyway, met up with my pals from Adidas. I'm like, well, what do you think? I'll show you the kits. And I'm like, listen, guys, the one thing you've got to do is build on nostalgia, look into the history books. You've got to get right players involved. And more importantly, you've got to look at different revenue streams for Newcastle. Because the one thing that we will do is we will buy everything if you've done a good job on it. So what I encourage them to do is look at all the different badges that we have. So when you see the new kits coming out, you'll see lots of different badges on our products. And the reason why I've said that is because, look, here we are on this call, right? What's the average age between us, right? We're all kind of in our late 40s, 50s. But look at all those young kids who are nostalgic for the club crest as it is now. But we know the Nuf badge, we know the badge with the circle and the magpie in it. So I was like, look, there's so many generations that fall in love with our great club, celebrate it. So I was encouraging them to do that and encouraging them to look into the magpie, and you'll see some of the training stuff that has come by with them. I don't know if it's released yet, but there's a lot of stuff going on. And then I was encouraging them to look into the subculture of our great city. If you think of Sam Fender, you think of Alan Shearer and everything else that goes with it. I was just encouraging them to get into, the fabric of our city, if you like. So I consulted on all of that, and then they were talking about, well, what kit would you bring back? And so I can't say too much because I am not going to take credit for any of the designs at all. But I would take credit for kind of pointing them in the right direction and considering different aspects of the kit. And there's a guy called Gavin Haig who's like a massive Newcastle United fan, collected kits.
I just keep collecting. Yeah.
Been collecting for years. Gavin's a really good mate of mine. So the two got involved in it. I'm like, listen, if there's two people you need to talk about, Like, how are you going to direct those kits? You know, talk to us about it. And thankfully they did, and they took on a lot of our feedback. And the one thing that I would say is, if we think we're blown away by what we've just seen, we haven't even scratched the fucking surface. We haven't even scratched it. It is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, lost him a bit. Maybe it's that good old Dubai internet again, Mitch.
Honestly, smart city, I tell you, it drives me nuts sometimes.
What do you make of what Craig said so far? I'll keep an eye out for him coming back, because he's internet's clearly down. Oh, he's back there now. Go on, Craig. You were cut off in your prime there, just with the Dubai internet.
Okay, so I don't know at what point I finished.
You were saying it was phenomenal down the lane. It could be.
Yeah, so I mean, that's it basically. I mean, I think it is going to be absolutely phenomenal what Adidas are going to bring to the table. It's as simple as that. I mean, if you look at all the other teams that they've endorsed, it really is. I mean, if you look at what they've done with Arsenal, what they've done with the Man United, with Stone Roses and Maharishi, I think it's going to be absolutely out of this world. And I don't even think we've scratched the surface yet.
So, when we're wrapping up, mate, so tell everybody what you're doing in Dubai now and what you're up to with things like Squat Wolf and Spartan Academy.
Yeah. So we run a course called Spark Design Academy, which is all about finding. You know, our remit was, how do we find the Ian Wright of the design world? So those kids that don't have the opportunity to go through university, but want to design football kits. So we set up a course where they can do our course for we have to charge, but it's like 50 quid. So if you think about like 50 to 75 quid that we charge, and then, counter that with someone who's got to go through a fashion degree course, the reality is talent will shine. So we decided, right, well, fuck it, we'll set up a Spark Design Academy where you can learn from veterans of the industry. So we set that up, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. And the idea is, these kids will go through the course, they'll do a kit at the end of it, and then we'll put them in front of the Addies, the Nikes, the Pumas of the world, where we've still got connections with. So that's Spark Design Academies, and that's kind of flying. And then why I ended up in Dubai, I ended up working with a company called Squat Wolf. So my other day job, if you like, is just designing, creatively directing really strong brands. And Squat Wolf is one of those in the region, which is just absolutely flying at the minute. It's like a gym brand, which is, it's amazing. In as much as, we design this luxury product at decent prices. And that's filling all of my time up at the moment. So I'm trying to build that brand from a startup to a global player. Coming out of the Dubai region, it's incredible, really. And I've got the opportunity to try and put it on the map. So yeah, that's my vocation in life at the moment. Like,
fabulous, mate. Thank you for taking some time out to join me. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
Any other questions, lads? Steve, Stu?
I would like to have the yellow away strip, like the Brazil site. Seeing you designed the Brazil one. I think always been Newcastle's best away strips, the yellow with the blue shorts and white socks. So hopefully I thought Adidas would have done it and they missed the trick. So hopefully if we consulted next time round, Craig, tip them the wings, please.
Well, you know what it is? It's a funny one, because I don't know if you've looked at the videos and stuff that I did before the launch happened. I mean, that was just coincidental. I'd gone to Newcastle and I thought, right, there's only one team that I've not actually been able to design for. I kind of turned them down because I went to Puma instead of going to Adidas, which if I had I'd have been there around the entertainers type of year. But I turned them down and went to Puma instead. So I've always wanted to design for them. So when I did my podcast and my video and stuff, I thought, right, well, I'll design it in the way that I think it should be designed. And yeah, the yellow kit for me is synonymous because that's the kit that I grew up with. But I do think it'll come. It'll definitely come at some point. But yeah, we just got to
Especially with the
watch this
Brazilian
space, I
players,
guess.
Swedish players as well. It makes sense, doesn't it?
No, 100%, 100%. But the challenge that we've always got, right? You've got 3 kits, and I always know there's going to be a 3rd Saudi kit. That's never going to disappear because they're going to want to build us into, you know, the biggest team in the Middle East, and they will do that. They will do that.
Absolutely.
Everything that I've seen over here is absolutely incredible, as we all know, and we will be the number 1 team in the Middle East. And then hopefully it'll go beyond that. But yeah, I mean, look, fuck me. Like 5 years ago, where the fuck were we? And look at us now, man. It's like, who cares what the kits look like, to be honest? It's like, it's amazing where we are now. We've got Adidas, we've got, you know, fantastic support. I mean, it's just incredible, man. It's all good.
The thing is, Craig, you're never going to keep everybody happy. There's always going to be somebody who's not happy. And like, you know, some people are saying this top that I've got on, of course, the Mackems and Man U are going to wind you up and say it's red, it's burgundy. When you see it up close, it's burgundy. It's a lovely design. Mark Todd going on about the magpie. And I've seen other people going on about it. You do know that 1 magpie's for sorrow, 2's for joy. You know, people saying that you need to sort that out. I mean, you're never going to keep everybody happy. The question I'm going to ask, rather than you getting into individual things, Craig, is do designers and big companies such as Adidas, do they listen to people when they come out with that? Like you, for example, mentioned that Sunderland story, which is a great one. Do designers listen? Do they think, okay, we'll think about that next time?
No, of course we do. Of course we do. And to be fair, as a designer, if you're not doing your due diligence, then you're not a decent designer. But the reality is, if you go back in the history books, Newcastle always wore red. You know, so, you know, go back as far as you want, but Newcastle have always had an affiliation with red. So in my mind, I don't care. But with regards to 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, I mean, fuck me, how far do you want to go, man? I mean, we're a magpie, right? Yeah. That's it. So I take all the feedback, and you can't be naive enough to kind of dismiss any of that stuff. But in the same breath, it's like, really? It's like, you've just got to, like, the best example I would give you is look at the St. George's flag that everybody's been whinging on about with regards to England. It's like, really? It's like, just accept the fact that we want to be progressive. We want to be different. You know, for me, I always look forward. I never look backwards. As much as I can be inspired by what's happened in the past. Like, there is not a kit on the planet that has always looked backwards. Like, if you think of the Ginola kit, right? If you think of the red and ecru jersey that we all absolutely adore, do you honestly think that if we'd have stuck to the rule books, that kit would have ever have come about? Never in a million years. But someone put their neck on the line and created an icon, and that's what we are paid to do. As a designer, we're paid to create like icons, and while you might not think it at that time, it will happen, and that's what I do for a living.
Amazing stuff and amazing stories. There was another question there from Mark. He said, what was the last kit you designed, Craig? Can you say or not?
Last kit I designed. It's probably got to go back to the England kit that I did for Umbro in 2011, which I think was the all navy away kit for England. And you're catching us out here because I don't actually know if that's right. It was the David Hay. Basically promoted it in a boxing match, and I think it was 2011. England kit. Which again, I mean, I've got to give kudos to Rob Warner, my business partner, because he drafted us in for that. And I think that was the last kit I designed. Yeah. which is a long time ago now, man.
I love the fact when you and Robert together, you're constantly taking notes and taking note of stuff. He got hold of me one day. I was wearing an unusual watch strap, which was rubber, which was impregnated with vanilla, so it makes it smell different. Well, he's now got it because he was like, "Well, I'm going to have that, and I need to add that to the list and things we can do." And he's constantly. That's why I love spending time with him. You've heard his crack in the day. He's constantly thinking and spewing these ideas back and forth. It's fascinating crack.
Look, at the end of the day, that's what you do as a designer, right? I mean, the reality is that there's football kits, but you know, if you look at the end of the day, without bad mouthing certain brands, there's certain brands that will do vanilla, right? And we've had one at our club for quite a long time, right? So there's brands that do vanilla, and there's brands that push it. And I've been lucky enough to work for those brands that are prepared to push it. If I think back to 2002, the World Cup winning kit, I mean, no one had even heard of a two-layer football kit. No one had even heard of taking a polyester fabric and turning it into woven fabric and then doing it in 2 layers. And you've literally got to have the courage of your convictions, and you've got to have the courage to be able to do something that is based on fact. And the one thing that I would say through my career is I've never designed something based on bullshit. I've designed stuff based on, well, actually, they're going to be in Tokyo and Japan. It's going to be fucking hot, and they need a solution for that. And then we've created product for that. And that's the one thing that I would say is kind of being a little bit void of a lot of football kit design now. And as much as there's all these brands that are creating all these football kits, but it's become such a juggernaut, such a repetitive kind of release of kits that they forgot to innovate. And it is a little bit frustrating, but you're right, Mitch. I mean, I'm always looking for something that it could come from a watch strap. It could come from anything in life. And then it can inform you in a way which is really quite interesting. And yeah, it's how you weave that into your designs. And rightly or wrongly, I've always done that over my career. So, yeah.
Great stuff. Excellent interview, Mitch, as well. You took the lead there brilliantly. But Craig, it would be great to get you back on in the future, even if you just want to come on and have a chat about Newcastle. Great to hear. Have you got a YouTube channel? Lots of people talking about videos if you put up. Have you got anything you want to promote on the show before we let you go?
No, not really. Just get into Spark Design Academy and the YouTube kick the kit off. Just watch as much as you can and try and build up your profile so I can earn more money.
I love it. Simple but effective.
Yeah, but honestly, get us back on and we'll talk about the tune kits.
Yeah, we'll do that. As they were released, we'll get you back on, mate. It'll be great to have you on. We'll look forward to that. But for now, Craig, thanks very much for your time.
No worries.
Cheers,
all
Craig.
the best, lads. Great to talk to you.
See you soon, mate.
Great stuff. Great to have him on. Thanks for sorting that out, Mitch. Absolute pleasure to have Craig on.
Tell you, man,
Yeah.
he's good crack, and he doesn't switch off. Just doesn't switch off. And I love the way he just casually chucks stuff. Oh yeah, when I designed such and such, and you go, hang on a minute, you designed what? And it's just talks about like it's so normal, and he's a great lad.
Yeah. What did you make of that, Stu?
I think it's really fascinating. It's because we're just the people who buy them, and it gives a better insight into the thought process that goes into it, and what they have to take on board, and what they're trying to achieve with it. And I think fair play to Craig, the fact that he went to the Royal College of Fashion, etc. To me, it's, well, he said, was it 1 in 10 or 1 in 12 a year get there? So it's quite a commendation for the Northeast. So I think fair play to the lad. And hopefully he does get to design one of the Newcastle strips, and he does it in yellow and blue as we've requested.
Well, in case of watching this space, We'll take another question before we go to the ads. Luke Bailey says, do you know if Tonali can play pre-season games? I mean, I guess the answer is no, isn't it, Mitch, on that
If that's
score?
behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I think that's already been something I think the club have been discussing in a couple of places, that they might be able to arrange behind closed doors friendlies, and that's what they'll do for some of them when they want to play Tonali.
Yeah, and
talking about one in Germany, wasn't it, at the Adidas Centre?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the plan. But of course, if the media go, that wouldn't be considered behind closed doors. So they're going to have to be very, very careful about that, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Emmett said, James Trafford, what do you reckon, guys? Isn't 18 million a decent compromise? I mean, we've talked about him at the start of the show, Emmett. But yeah, listen, I think bringing in youngsters is part of Newcastle's remit, and I'm not sure he'll come in as a challenger for Pope. He may well come in as a number 2. You never know, but he could be. A lot's going to happen at the club, but I'm not sure what Burnley are looking for, Mitch, for Trafford.
Well, also isn't there a percentage has got to go? Is it City that he went to Burnley from?
Profit.
Right. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think one thing we're going to struggle on over the next transfer window is working out what a fair value for somebody is. I think we're going to see some very weird valuations and wide-ranging valuations, mainly as clubs who are struggling to hit certain markers for money are scrambling. You just have to see how some of Chelsea players that were put up for sale started. The striker Boya, they wanted 50 million, then it was 30 million, then it was a 10 million loan with a 20 million compulsory purchase thing, and then it was a free loan with a 25 million compulsory, and it was just, they were just chucking numbers around to see what they could make work. And I think that's going to be the feature of the next transfer window, in my opinion. That's a prediction. There you go.
The other thing is, Burnley haven't said yes to the Newcastle bid.
No.
So they can bid whatever they want. They haven't yet said yes, but as I understand it, there's a 20% selling clause on any profit they make. But I understand why they're doing it now. Spenny's just sent me this message, and the best goalkeeper recognised Newcastle's ever had, Shea Given, I suppose. If we did a poll, Shea Given would probably come out number 1.
He wouldn't be mine, but yeah.
Well, in his last season for Newcastle, he conceded 55 goals. Trafford conceded 62 at Burnley in a team that was always destined for relegation. And he's only 21. So he's the lad's got talent, he could be nurtured. But if you look at the job that's happened with Livramento coming in to learn his trade from someone like Trippier, and then ultimately going to replace him next season, the same could happen with Trafford and Pope, because I think Pope is, well, he's 6'6" or something anyway, but he's very big in the changing room. I didn't say shower, the changing room. And he's a popular guy. So I still think it hinges on and for me, without any sensationalism, Eddie Howe's job could be hanging on this decision as well, because if he nails his mast to keeping Pope, and Pope goes injured in the first month or so, then that's on Eddie Howe. So these are the big calls he's got to make. So if Trafford's happy to come and be number 3 to Pope's number 2 and a new number 1, or to number 2 to Pope, or is it, as I said earlier, a new keeper altogether and Trafford comes in number 2 to him, there's so many things to go. But if they spend the 18 million on him, 30 on all, they've only got 12 million left for a centre half, right winger, centre forward, centre midfielder. I'm going to win this bet. Don't worry about that. I'm confident.
Aye, Ben's got to take it first as well, so we'll see.
Hold on, if he doesn't take it, I'm not giving any of my money away until he's actually accepted the bet. So
exactly.
That's the figure I'll go to. If he wants to drop the figure or increase it, we'll talk about that then. But I've put my cards on the table and, shall we say, called him out a bit.
Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads.
Big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk, telephone 01768 210 102, or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to United Group Travel. There are no strangers in our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. Thanks to Media Arts for the technical side of things. And you can also find us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button underneath this video. Hit the all notifications bell so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to your social media. If you want to join the channel, then click join for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become a member, for a one-off £25 payment, email john@nufcmatters.com or go to membership at the website nufcmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, hold your camera over the QR code and it'll take you straight there. We also help the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to the matchday bucket and you can leave a virtual donation today.
And don't forget the end of season party with George and Supermatt and Gibbo and the Long Sands takes place the 20th of July. Tickets nufcmatters.com, newcastlelegends.com, and they are £10 for the tickets, and all proceeds, of course, going to Dementia Matters. And Gator Leisure Centre have asked us to push out the fact that they are televising all of the England games for the Euros. It's a free entry, so if you want to you live in Gateshead and you want to go along to there, get yourself along to the Leisure Centre. And Rob Lee, and Gibbo are doing the City Hall on the 2nd of August, and tickets are available from ticketmaster.co.uk for that. Okay, questions. Dave said, I hope we don't sell Minty before he's even kicked the ball for us. Watched a few games of his last season on the stick and thought he was quality. Selling him and buying a right winger doesn't make sense, surely, Mitch.
Okay, but if that makes all the worries about PSR disappear and it keeps Bruno and Isaac, would that be a sacrifice you'd be happy to make? I think we have to look at a bigger picture. Yes, it's a pisser that we brought somebody, he's never kicked the ball forward, but he could be the absolute solution, because all of that money is pure profit that goes to balance the books. And isn't that the club being clever to make sure that we don't lose the crown jewels? And I think we'll have to keep an open mind to it, because if that's the solution that calms everybody's tits about Bruno and Isaac for the foreseeable, I think I'd take it. Just to pour to put oil on troubled waters and all that. I think we really need to maybe think about the bigger picture and the problems that PSR brings. As it stands, everybody pretty much is in agreement it's bullshit. And so I think we might have to accept the bullshit solution with a bullshit problem. The kid's done amazing in Holland. What a better thank you we could give him to say, you know what you've done here just allowed us to keep the crown jewels safe for next year. So I'm open-minded to it. Yeah, it's a bummer, but I'm not emotionally invested in him, I guess. So that makes it easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does. Trull's suggesting we sell Tonali instead of Bruno or Isaac to help FFP Mitch as well.
Yeah, you know, so I think it's one of those. Do I have to look at it that way? Possibly, but I think that would be. Would it be harsh? And Tonali again, how emotionally invested are we in Tonali, knowing the situation with him? But I think that would be. I think it would be short-sighted to back out of that situation without looking to address it on the pitch, because we saw hints that, you know, he could bring something very different to our midfield that were really missed last season.
Okay, what's your thoughts on all of that then, Stu?
I'm in agreement with the good doctor. They paid 7 million for him. So if on a 5-year contract, so it's 1.4 million a season. That goes down. So anything above that becomes pure profit. So let's say they make a 20 million profit on him, and if you amortize that, that allows you to buy at least a player for 50 or 60 million. Sorry, I shouldn't mention 50 and 60 million. Now, again, going against the model, right? But I think we're going to have to buy this season a player for the here and now, and not for the future. As I said before about this 5-year plan, the middle year was the year that they were expected to seriously challenge for the Champions League places, and expectancy is great. So let me throw a name in. This is just hypothetical. It's not me saying I've heard this, I've heard that, but to ask the viewers what they would think. I thought of a player just as Mitch was speaking there. His age doesn't go against. See if you can guess who he is first. His age doesn't go against. His age goes against what we like to do. We like to buy them young with the potential to go on. Would the club in concern sell him to another Premier League team? I know that there's Saudi interest in the player. He is a hard worker, so he would fit Eddie Howe's work ethics. He's hugely talented. He'd be a great addition for the here and now, and he's apparently available for £50 million. He fits our transfer no, he doesn't fit our transfer profile, and he would probably have no resale value at the end of the contract. Which player am I talking about? Top 6 team? Top 4 team? Top 3 team? And go again. He's at an age where if we buy him for 50 million, and that's apparently what he is available for, but his wages would be high, but he would come in this team and be a huge, huge benefit to our team. Absolutely huge benefit to our team. He does work hard. He's very, very good. He can play and does play on the right. Scores goals, scores assists. Has anyone had a guess of who I'm thinking about? Strange as it is. Is anyone in the chat guessing on it?
Salah.
That was the obvious one. No,
Neil Calvert says Salah. Sane says why I man.
Bernardo Silva from Man City.
Really?
Apparently they would accept 50 million for him. Now you drop him into our team now. Is he an improvement on what we've got on that side? Absolutely. Does he graft? Yes. Is he skillful? Yes. Does he assist? Yes. Does he score? Yes. Is there any resale value in him? No. But would he help us towards this quest for the top 4 next season? Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we're going to have to buy. At some stage, we're going to have to buy for the here and now instead of keep building for the future. You can't keep buying for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the lane, because that'll always be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the lane. It's like if someone says, I want the top of the range BMW, but I'll only ever pay cash for it, so I'll save for it. By the time you save the money for it, it's not top of the range BMW anymore, because there's been a new model. So sometimes you've got to bite the bullet and put that money down. And would Man City help us out? I think so. And with all the teams that would help, it would be us. And if he's wanting to go, could we get him? I think the salary would be the big bone of contention. I think you need a decent sign-on fee just to keep on parity with our top earners. But that's just something I thought of there when Mitch was talking about Minty. Would you want Minty for 2 or 3 years' time, or would you have Bernardo Silva now? Selling Minty would give you the money to get someone like that. So that's where I'm coming from with that.
Okay, what valuation, Mitch, would you put on Minty? It says black and
Not
white
a
ball.
clue. And like I say, it's what I said before. I think you're going to see some very curious valuations over the next few weeks and months. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
I've seen as much as 40 million bounded around a day. I genuinely can't believe that. But who knows? I guess the answer you've got to say is they're worth what somebody's prepared to pay for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of top class, by the way, can I just jump in? Just had word. Josh Parker, my stepson, you'll see me talking to him on Twitter, has just scored 110 not out for Mitford against Bates Cottages today. He's made an unbroken century opening the baton. So top lad. And that's on the back of going under 90 and around the golf first thing this morning.
Wow.
I love you and I hate you all at the same time, mate.
One thing that everybody's asking about in the chat as well is Neil Calvert says, what do you think of all this stuff that Sky keep putting out regarding clubs having to sell before the 30th of June, only to pull it off from their social media? What do you make of that, Mitch? What do you make of that?
It reveals what's been very clear for a long time. When it suits the Premier League, leak like a sieve, and there is a mole who's quite happy to run to the media to make a certain agenda and a certain picture to be painted in the media ahead of any issues and ahead of any troubled waters. And we've known that for some time now. And it's now so bloody obvious it's quite scary.
I think it's just diversion tactics as well. Look at this story, not the real story.
Nah. Just look at the keys.
Exactly. And quickly dropped it as well. So I don't want to keep talking about the financial fair play, but the situation we knew at the start of the season. So any money generated this season, albeit the seller money, the Champions League money, all the money that goes into it, they didn't buy Lewis Hall because they were at the limit. They haven't bought anyone else since. There's more revenue coming in. Look at what Adidas did yesterday. It really was makes the hairs in your neck stand up, doesn't it? It was fantastic. And I know you covered it last night, but people who don't even support Newcastle were watching on with envious eyes, saying this is great. And for us, it gives you a sense of pride of the city, of the team, and it was like an announcement, we're back in the big time, and it shows how much Adidas are invested in Newcastle United and how much they know they can make from it. That queue you stood in, Steve, you don't see that any other team in the Premier League on opening day of a new shirt. You don't see it. So we know we're special, and now other people are starting to realise Newcastle United is special. And you've got to give credit where it's due. We've been quick, myself included, to chastise Silverstone, but this is probably his masterstroke getting Adidas in. And the story's only going to get bigger and better for us. But look at how much revenue is going to be generated from that. Look at what Seller are doing tonight. We're getting the right partners. Now, irrespective of what happens with the Manchester City thing, I think even if the Premier League win their case with Manchester City, I believe it'll allow us to put a few more sponsors through at a higher rate, because the last thing we need is another team challenging them. So it can only ever benefit Newcastle, and this is what we're all here for. So there'll be more money going into next season, giving us more money to spend. And getting back to the original question that you asked me at the start of the show, this is why I believe we'll spend a lot of money this year, because this tax year coming, we're going to generate a lot more money. There'll be more sponsors coming in. They've purposely not released training kit sponsors, training ground sponsors, stadium sponsors, stand sponsors. There's so much where we can get a lot of money. And worst comes to the worst, they just very quickly then just say, right, someone goes off to Saudi. How can they stop a Saudi team buying someone for a player from Newcastle? They can't. So we're in a better place than what their club or what the press want us to believe we are.
Okay, we had another question. I'm trying to get through as many as we can. Yeah, Sam was wanting to know, how long do you think the City case is expected to last? Things could change a lot depending on the result. I mean, I think we've finally got confirmation it's going to be in November, Mitch, which again is it's a long way off.
It's a hell of a long way off, and there's a lot can happen between now and then. It could be delayed, it could be postponed for a number of different reasons. It's just an example again of how ridiculous the situation is, both with them and Chelsea, in terms of prolonged delays from the Premier League, their inability to apply their own rules prudently, timely and fairly, and what a mess they've made of everything.
What's your thoughts, Stu?
Sorry, I was just seeing my poor guy right there. He's just won his guitar. He just came off the guitar while uploading off. That's great to know. What was the question he asked there regarding the Premier League? Just
how long you think the Man City case is going to take?
Well, this one that they're challenging the sponsorships and things like that. That's a 2-week thing, maximum of 2 weeks. But remember, the cat case that we had was meant to be a 3 or 4 day thing, and it folded in the first day. So the main one, the 115 charges, if Manchester City do win some or part of this case starting on Monday, that would realistically make a lot of these 115 cases go away. If it starts in November, it depends on how it's going. Manchester City have the money, they have the lawyers with the know-how to make it drag on and drag on and drag on. But one thing's for certain, that if someone's true to the word, Pep Guardiola said if they're found guilty, he's leaving. He's stated that quite clearly. So if that's mid-season, imagine the effect that has on that. And I'll just keep reverting everything back to Newcastle United. Who knows what this guy at Liverpool is going to do? Is it in following in Klopp? You've seen what's happened at Liverpool, what happened at Arsenal initially. When someone who has built a legacy leaves, it's a hard act. Man United, for certain, it's a hard act to follow. We've got a great chance of being in the top 4 with the right acquisitions in the summer, and I've got no doubt that Amanda will be helping with the transfer negotiations, and she can be very, very persuasive. After all, if she wasn't persuasive, we wouldn't be having PIF as our owners. So we are in a fantastic place, and as crucial as this window is, I think we're going to be very successful, and I think next season will be the season that we actually firmly put our flag on the map and say, right, we're here now, and we're going to be here to stay. We'll be known not as a flash in the pan, a one-off season, etc. This will be us cement ourselves in the top 4 with the Adidas. We'll become a worldwide recognised brand, and people will want to watch Newcastle. More importantly, people will want to play for Newcastle. So good luck with Manchester City. It will only benefit, well, not only benefit us, but we will benefit from any win that they get.
Yeah, I would agree. We've got over 367 watching on YouTube, which means we've got over 300 of you watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on X. Please open up YouTube on your computer and just search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. It does us a big favor, helps us massively, and helps us grow as a channel and as a platform. John said, once the Premier League versus City arbitration case is decided, is that it? Or could either side go to court for a tribunal? How the beautiful games come to this is beyond me. Time for a change, methinks. What do you think, Mitch? I mean, it's you know, I know it's not an answer you could probably give, is it?
Don't really know what the complexities of that are. One would often think in a situation like this, there could be grounds for appeal. Or there could be grounds for further submissions and a revisit of the arbitration, but you never really know. I'd need to see, and would need to see more the actual details of what and how things are being brought. Like, we didn't learn certain things about the FFP tribunals until we had the small print in hand, and this will be even more complicated than that. You've got to remember, Everton's FFP case was basically like 2 + 2 = 4. This is like particle physics.
Yeah,
What do you
wasn't
think?
it our cat case? Wasn't it? That was it. There was no
Yes.
maneuver. There was no way they could be appealed. So that was it. I'm not sure if the Manchester City ones is similar.
No tag backs.
Yeah. So whatever's decided is decided. But what they've done is that the pushback has created enough doubt. Sorry, just someone on the phone there. Excuse me 1 second.
All right, he needs to get it. We'll take him out of the chat. Mozza said, have you seen the odds for City and Chelsea getting relegated? The bookies must know something. I mean, it's interesting, that, isn't it? I've seen 66 to 1 go to 33 to 1, go to 25 to 1, go to 13 to 1, Mitch.
The bookies are good at covering their arses just in case. And that if there's any inkling that something could go awry, and if they've had some big bets come in, speculation, at those large prices, they're just going to drop the prices to cover their backsides. It's as simple as that. There's no rocket science in that, really. Do they know something? They know that it's they know that there's a outside chance that something could go south for both the clubs. So if they've been taking bets at big odds, they'll move to cover their losses very, very quickly. You'd be surprised how small an amount of bets could move the needle in the market like that, actually.
Yeah, what do you think about the bookies odds there, Stu? It's interesting. They've been, I don't know whether you heard us there, 66 to 1, down to 25 to 1, 23 to 1, whatever it is now. It's incredible that people are...
It's what the bookies do, and it also generates interest in the market that probably people wouldn't be betting on. But just to give you an indication that if Manchester City were docked 20 points last season, they'd finished in the top 4. 25 points, they would have finished 5th. 30 points docked, they would still finish in Europe. That was just on last season. So they could get the biggest points deduction in history and still finish in Europe. That's the gap, and that's what we're trying to close because of what they've been able to do, and we're restricted to do. There's something I sent you yesterday, wasn't it? That showed you the teams with the most debts and then teams with no debt. Obviously, we're one of the teams with no debt, yet we're not allowed to spend, apparently, where teams who have huge debts can spend. How does it make sense? What we want to do is get back to a playing field where Jack Walker comes in and buys Blackburn and wins the league and it's all romantic. How come when someone buys Newcastle United, it's not right and there's big uproar about it? And I know I'm looking at it very one-sided and very, purposely not looking at it in too much detail without going into the bigger scheme of things. But the whole idea is why there shouldn't be a restriction of trade. If someone's willing to spend money on something, then they should be allowed to do it, especially if you've bought the club. But we've covered this many, many times before. But I can understand why the bookies have reduced the odds. The two reasons being is just in case the Premier League grow balls and are allowed to actually do what their red teams want them to do and deduct them a huge amount of points. And secondly, if they got relegated, then that bet pays out. But I don't think anyone with money, it's easy me just saying I've offered someone £1,000 bet, but anyone with money to burn won't be putting money on Man City or Chelsea to get relegated. I think there'll be a points deduction which will look very, very bad. But as I pointed out just there, Steve, you take 30 points off Man City this season and they still finished in Europe. So
that's the bottom line, isn't it? It's, and we've got to look at what happened with Forest. We've got to have what happened with Everton. That's your benchmark. People saying they should be relegated, they should be going into the conference. It's what happened to Everton and Forest, and yeah, it could be on a larger scale. And that's the bottom line. It could be on a much bigger scale.
Yeah, that's well. If you see what they did in Italy, they relegated Juventus, I think, 2 divisions. In Scotland, they relegated Rangers to the bottom league. But what the Premier League are very, very conscious of is tarnishing their brand. And by doing that, it's their admitting that they've allowed it to happen for so long. And it makes them look not as bad as Manchester City if they were to be found guilty of it. But they're culpable to allowing it to happen for so long. And that, again, as I said, it tarnishes the brand. I can't see them getting relegated, even if found guilty. But I can't see points deductions for certain charges, unless Manchester City win this case that they're up for starting Monday.
Okay, Tommy, good afternoon. He says, question, lads, could Amazon sponsor Newcastle? What's your thoughts, lads? And I've seen quite a few things flying around about Aramco as well and stuff. I mean, let's widen the question. You know, sponsors in general, are we expected to see some more? Seller, of course, one of our main sponsors, doing a big display tonight. Sadly, it's already been out there. You know, I think a few people who maybe would have gone down there. I know it's different seeing it in real life, but we've all seen what it is now on social media. It's been put out there, and you know, are we going to see increase from, you know, maybe a current sponsor, or are we going to see more new sponsorships come in, do you think, over the course of the next couple of months?
Mix of both. We're already talking about uplifting existing sponsors and putting them into more premium sponsorship positions, and new sponsors will come in. Could Amazon sponsor? Yes, they could. It would piss Noon off, because that's effectively who their direct competitor in this region is. I don't see what would stop Amazon sponsoring Newcastle, per se.
Crystal Palace.
Probably
American team.
throw the toys out the cot to come up with some sort of new resolution. You can't be sponsored by one home delivery service. It's just, there's no reason why not, but I think there's what we definitely know, existing sponsors are being uplifted to contribute more and take bigger packages where possible. Makes perfect sense. They don't need further vetting. It's easy. And then 2, new people will be coming in, and new rules, new sponsorship opportunities. I do think the brakes have been pumped on it a little bit ahead of the City case and challenge against about fair value, etc. Because again, as me and Stu banged on about ad infinitum, how can they work out what the fair value to somebody is in this region? They've got no idea. They've got no way of valuing it. They've got no way of doing it. Ironically, with the Chelsea situation, with training ground and particularly with the hotels, there actually is a very easy way of working on fair valuation for the price of a hotel in a certain part of London. There's real estate markets all over the place for that, ironically. But it's very, very difficult for them to ascertain, I believe, what is a fair value for somebody over here.
Have we got property developers, Mitch, on our board? We've not got property developers in our ownership.
Yes, we have.
So with the idea of buying, for example, the training ground area that they've just expanded, you know what I mean? And sell that on. There's so many things that can be done, and then they can't point the finger at Newcastle if other teams have done it.
Yeah.
You know, what could they build on that site? Let's just say, again, we'll speak hypothetically, because we heard a rumour that there was going to be the new training ground would be up near the airport, up Wilton Way. So then you've got a huge bit of Whitley Park, Darsley Park, etc. What could go there? How many houses could you put there? What sort of, could there be a big shopping centre there? You know, there's so much that could be done that would value the land at more. It's not city centre location, but it would bring in more money back into the club if the Rubens bought it. You know what I mean? There's so many ifs, buts, and maybes that can be done, but we're still, stick to the line that our owners are trying to do things by the book, and they're just watching what other people do, and if it gets accepted, then we can't be denied it. And until there's been clarification that Chelsea's hotels and training grounds has passed through the financial fair play, and if it has, how come they're on that list with Newcastle and the other teams that were mentioned that need to sell before the end of June? You know, for me, it's sensationalism from Sky Sports. There's a shock because the window was slow in January, and they know this is slow, so they're trying to generate a second transfer window within the window by saying the end of June, and that's why clubs like Newcastle have players that are likely to move. Chelsea have players that are likely to move, and let's start rumours about that. That's what Sky Sports are doing. That's what they need to do to get the viewers.
Ken says, why don't we challenge it? That's the thing I don't understand.
Because the minute we kick up a fuss, there's people waiting to jump all over us and go, see, we told you so. And we have to be very wary of that. And I think we've got to be seen to be whiter than white, keep our powder dry, and then once we see the whites of their eyes, they might pull the trigger. But if we go off half-cock, guarantee you there'll be a backlash within football, led by certain clubs and backed up by certain parts of the Premier League, who will say, this is what we told you to do. And so look at the reaction to City taking action. And so we get that and then some, because they're desperate to do it. And I think that's why I think we've looked at what City are doing and saying, go on. On you go. Thanks for that one. Because we don't have to do it. I think the time will come where somebody will snap somewhere. I really do. But I think when it matters, and I don't think it matters enough yet.
Would you agree?
What, 3 rule changes since Newcastle come in? Like emergency rules and it's quite clear that it's been done to stifle Newcastle. And believe me, the legal teams will have everything documented, they'll have everything stored. And when the time's right, if the time is necessary, if they change something again, which is again quite clearly to stifle Newcastle's growth, they will. They've invested a lot of money and they intend to invest a lot more. But they want end product from it. And what's the point in putting money into something if you're not allowed to make it grow? You're just there to keep the numbers and keep the status quo as it is. Well, that's not what the Saudi Arabians do for business. They'll invest in it to make money. And they will be very polite. They will be very courteous. They will play things by the books. But they'll be watching, and then it'll be a case of, we're doing this, you can't stop us because this, and this. So they all know it's coming. They've known since October the 7th, 2021. And all it is slowing it down, slowing it down, and slowing it down. But it's inevitable that Newcastle United will get to the very, very top. We are all eager for it to happen as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, just as they are. But let's see what happens with Manchester City, because it could be very good for us if the fair market value for sponsorship is exposed, if there becomes a gap there where someone can then say, right, I wouldn't say Amazon, but let's just say we've seen how much Seller have done. I don't see any other furniture sponsors. Talk about what they did with the RNIB. Look at what they're doing tonight on the quayside. There's so much that they're doing good that other sponsors are just saying, here, take me money, stick it on, and they're just passing it off. We are growing beyond the expectations, doing things the right way, and they don't want to rocket by becoming embroiled in a legal battle. But don't think, what's the favourite saying? Don't take my kindness as a sign of weakness, because when they bite, they will bite. And I think we'll see what happens when it comes to the Manchester City case, what happens with Chelsea selling properties, etc. Then they've already set the standards of, well, this is accepted. Then we'll see how savvy and shrewd business people we have in charge of this club. But until then, they'll play by the rules that have been set by others.
Jacob, the answer to your question is, I don't know. There hasn't been any date that I've seen.
No, I think there was it not one in July and one in August? There was one a month.
Yeah, I think that's it.
There you go.
But I don't have specific dates.
All right. Stu said, Sean says, Stu, are the Premier League breaking UK commercial law?
I don't know. I live in Bahrain. I would imagine our friend Keith would be able to tell you more. He's very, for me, it is anti-competition. But then when people buy a club, they buy into the rules that are already set, and the rules that are already set were 14 teams had to be a majority vote. So I don't think we could change that. But is it breaking anti-competition law? I think with Man City case this couple of weeks will decide that. If someone's willing to give them £100 million for a front shirt sponsor instead of £50 million, and that's allowed, then yeah, they have been breaking the law. So there'll be a compromise somewhere along the line, and we, as a club with our links worldwide and with the wealth of our owners, will benefit from it most. But that doesn't mean other clubs won't benefit from it either. So if we're broaden our horizons rather than just a Newcastle United perspective, there is teams like Aston Villa, there is teams like Forest that would benefit greatly from being able to put more money than what you've been told you're allowed to spend. So are they breaking law? That'll be settled in a courtroom, not on a podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of comments coming in. We had a couple of other questions which I wanted to get across. Oh yeah, Philip. So what do you all think about the American owners wanting to play games in the States and maybe other countries? Yeah, the Liverpool owner came out yesterday, Mitch, and said what we've been talking about on this platform for quite a while now, that they won't be happy until they get games transferred across to the US. And, you know, talk about, you know, playing a competitive Premier League game there was uttered again yesterday.
Very predictable. And now there's more of them. And they seem to be being emboldened by effectively de facto backing the Premier League to let them continue doing what they want. We're going to hear more noises like that until they get what they want. And the more teams like Crystal Palace, again, with American owners, are prepared to back them up and feed them lines and do their dirty work on the sly and make proposals and juggle, and the more they're emboldened, the more they're going to ask for. It's as simple as that. They're not about putting money into the game, they're about everything they can take from the game. And so the more they become emboldened, they start asking, demanding foreign country games and trying to drag people in with it. Oh, I want a game in New York and I want one in Riyadh, like as if they've spoken to us and we're all behind it. They know what they're doing. They know what they're saying. And I think, yep, Bill, it seems like there's a Roma's American owner is apparently sniffing around Everton at the minute. I'd be interested to do some digging to see what his connections to some of the other companies that are owed money by Everton are. But that's another matter. You're going to see more and more involvement. And while everybody was being directed to the east and being told how bad money coming from the east was, the problem was always in the west.
Would you concur with that, Stu?
Yeah, it's as if they've had a meeting about it, isn't it? Like behind closed doors.
Somebody
no.
But you know, when you put that in the group, Steve, about the games, the Liverpool owner's suggestion, one this hour, one that hour, and mark my words, it'll happen, because there's enough weight behind it, it'll happen. And the Premier League will celebrate it as like the Premier. What did I can't even remember what I wrote, but the Premier League global a day or something like that, where they'll go right the way around the clock. They'll kick off at the same time, but it'll be 2 hours difference or something like that. So you can watch a Premier League game every 2 hours, 10 games. It'll happen, guarantee. So it'll be like nearly 20 hours of football, or if you give a little bit break, there'll be 24 hours of the Premier League celebrating its global brand. And I'm actually not a fan of it, but I'm pretty sure it'll eventually happen, because enough of them keep saying it, the Premier League will fold anyway.
It reminds me of the if you've ever seen Mitchell and Webb, the sketch they did about watching the football. Look at the football, it's endless football. Have you seen the football? There's the football, watch it. And this is where we're headed.
If you look at COVID as well, they used to do 5 games a day, didn't they? Saturday and Sunday, which proved to be a success when the fans couldn't get in. And that's the lead they'll start taking. They'll use that in their argument against it. Like I say, it could be a game in New York, a game in Los Angeles, a game in Sydney or Melbourne, and they'll just work their way right the way around the globe. We'll mention Riyadh because that would suit certain teams, i.e. us. They might even have a game in Iceland, eh?
Yeah, that would keep our friend happy. And let's talk about international football and the Euros to finish. We'll start with the happier of the two. Stu, some room for him. some room for improvement for Scotland is what I'm going to say.
Do you know what? We'll talk about England first because
no, we'll talk about Scotland first.
something that Mitch said last night was you'll never keep anyone happy. No matter what squad was picked, you wouldn't keep the people just want to like pick holes in it. But he had such a depth of talent to pick from. And do you know what he did? And I've probably seen nigh on 20 England squads go to major championships in my lifetime. And each time a squad's been picked, the manager's been accused of picking his favourites. This time, he's picked a squad on form. He really has. He's picked a squad on form. And I think well done to Southgate for doing that. And in my opinion, the tournament's England's to lose. Ignoring last night, because that's just a kick about, I was going to make a joke about, I love the double burgers from Iceland with the cheese in the middle and stuff, but that was my second best thing from Iceland. Then you got Magnus, but it's a friendly game, and players desperately didn't want to get injured. So I wouldn't read too much into it. The real business starts next week. So I think England are going there with a huge chance to win it. I'm going, as you know, to all 3 Scotland games. A lot of travel between the first and the second one. I have to come back to Borry to work to fly back again, but that's something I'm willing to do and more than happy to do. I'm privileged to be in a position to do so, to obtain the tickets as I have and be able to do that. From those 3 games, I was speaking to my son earlier, and he says, what do you expect? Because he sees himself as English. He says, do you think you're going to qualify from the group? And I said, do you know what it is, son? I'll be delighted to celebrate a meaningful goal. Not a consolation when we're 3-0 or 4-0 down. A goal that actually means something during one of the games, whether it's we're 0-0 and we're going to score the first one, or we're 1 behind and we're getting equaliser. That's managing expectations. That's the different levels where the majority of England fans, rightly so, go there with enough confidence that they have a squad capable of winning the tournament. If Scotland can win a game, I'd be delighted if they could get out the group. It'd be the first time in the nation's history it's done. And records are there to be broken, history's there to be made. So there's 2 teams from the UK going to the Euros with totally different levels of expectation. And I'm just happy I'm going there with very little expectation, because anything above that is a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, look, you'd rather lose your friendlies, Mitch. That was no performance last night. It was poor. Yeah,
and like Stu rightly says, there's players playing there who just didn't want to get injured. I doubt the value of that as a friendly, really. But things have got to be done, and contracts have got to be recognised, and you've got to tick the boxes and get on with it. I think he has gone more on form than he ever has, and deserves credit for that. I do think when you cross the line in anger in Germany, it's going to be a very different beast to what we witnessed last night. You'd bloody hope so, at least, anyway. I'd just love to see Anthony Gordon do for England what he does for us. What a boost for the club, and that young man who seems ever more impressive. His interview last night after with talking to Wayne Rooney was thoughtful and honest, and he comes across more and more as an impressive individual. So good luck to him and to Trippier and the whole England squad.
Barry says, amazing show, guys. Should be called The Honest Professionals, because there's no crap talked on here. Thank you, mate. It's a good little byline to give us. We'll take one more question before we're finished. And it was from Barry. He said, do you guys think Isak should take the magical 9 this season or stick with 14? He prefers 14, doesn't he?
I think so. And who knows what's happening with Wilson?
Well, Wilson,
but that would also come back to something that was mentioned about Wilson, about disrespect. I think he'd feel massively disrespected to have the number taken off him without being transferred out of the club. And I think if Isaac's happy to stay on 14, crack on. What I wouldn't want it to see was to become a weight on his shoulders, because number 9 at Newcastle can be. You know, talk to my mate Tony Lomer about that. And so, you know, it's an iconic number, but you need, you know, the right kind of player to carry it. I think I've got no doubt that Isaac could. But if he's happy, leave it alone. If something's not bust, don't fix it. We're in the era of squad numbers now. It's still, I'd still take a little bit of getting used to it, but I guess because I've always liked American football, I get the concept of squad numbers. It's something I don't really bat an eyelid at. The number 9 will always be an iconic number for somebody to wear at Newcastle United because of its heritage. As long as we don't do something stupid like give a left back it with one day. But I think Isaac's quite happy on 14 and let the goals keep coming. He could wear 296 for all I care.
Doesn't bother me. Exactly. Okay, well, that is the end of the show. No live tomorrow or Monday. Tomorrow night is Ben Jacobs' show, pre-recorded, 6 o'clock. Monday night is No Fans Forum. Those were the days with George. Tuesday, we are back with the Fans Forum live. So tune in on Tuesday night. There'll be no Geordies here. Geordies there this week on Wednesday. Wednesday night will be an evening with Lee Clark, as I've got a busy week this week. Thursday night will be me with Gibbo, and then we'll be back with the Amigos on Friday, Saturday and Sunday to be confirmed. But for now, thanks to Stu, thanks to Mitch. Have a good weekend, chaps. See you later.
Cheers, everyone.